Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chloe. I do reading, writing, sometimes lifestyle vlogs. Today is a reading vlog. And you can see by the title that I'm getting myself into something, because if you've been here for a little while or you've seen my other videos, you know that earlier in the year I read the All for the Game series. That was in early January. The last book, like the most recent book in the series, came out in February. Since then, it is now April 20th. I've been fully consumed into that world. I need to not be as obsessed with it as I currently am, because it is getting in the way of my daily activities. So I kind of thought to myself, what's a good way to stop being super obsessed with something? And I think the best way to do that is to become obsessed with something else. So then the obsession I have with the first thing and the second thing have to take up the same amount of room so that I'm not as obsessed with them, right? Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. And I'm gonna do that by reading The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. Sorry friend, I need to look up the names of authors before I try to say them. But I decided that, you know, when you're looking at like one piece of media that kind of has an intersecting fandom with another, you know, All for the Game, The Raven Cycle, they kind of like start all showing up on your social media platforms. So because I was looking up All for the Game on a lot of things, it's now on my Pinterest, it's now on my TikTok, it's starting to go into my Instagram. I've started to get the Raven Cycle stuff, and I was like, okay, you know, seems like something I'd probably be into. I'm going in partially blind. I do not know any of the story. What I do know is that I think two of the characters are like a thing. I can't tell if that's fandom shipping or if that's something that actually is. This is how I felt with All for the Game. I look up one thing, I click on one Pinterest post, and now I'm getting a bunch of it. So I was getting a little bit of like fan art of couples, so I tried to like hit not interested so I didn't see it, didn't ruin it for myself. From this point on, I'm just gonna make the blanket statement, from this point on in the video, this is not spoiler friendly, and it's mostly gonna be, I'm not really gonna recount things that happen, probably because I usually forget to do that. I'm just gonna show you my raw, real reaction to what is happening and check in every few days while I'm reading. But that being said, I know that there's something up with one of the characters named Noah. I just know there's something up with him. I don't know what, but I'm suspicious of him already. So let me just read the back of the first book. There are only two reasons a non-seer would see a spirit on St. Mark's Eve. Either you're his true love, or you killed him. Every year, Blue Sergeant stands next to her clairvoyant mother as the soon-to-be dead walk past. Blue never sees them, until this year when a boy emerges from the dark and speaks to her. His name is Gainsey, and he's a rich student at Aglionby, the local private school. Blue has a policy of staying away from Aglionby boys. Known as Raven boys, they can only mean trouble. But Blue is drawn to Gainsey in a way she can't entirely explain. He's on a quest that has encompassed three other Raven boys. Adam, the scholarship student who resents the privilege around him. Ronan, the fierce soul whose emotions range from anger to despair. And Noah, the taciturn watcher who notices many things but says very little. For as long as she can remember, Blue has been warned that she will cause her true love to die. She doesn't believe in true love and never thought this would be a problem. But as her life becomes caught up in the strange and sinister world of the Raven boys, she's not so sure anymore. Excited to read it. I bought the first book in my bookstore hopping video that is probably out by now. Sorry, I'm sitting on my foot and it's gone to sleep. But I don't know if I'm gonna buy the whole series or if I'm just gonna get it on Kindle. I have a feeling with the way that I immediately bought the All for the Game series that I will probably get all of these books. But we'll see. So I will check in with you guys in a few days as I start reading this. See you soon. Hello, first check-in time. I'm about 100 pages into the book and I have some thoughts. So I also got some feedback from my lovely friend Justice that I was a little bit cryptic and very vague in my last read with me video. So I'm just gonna tell you all the entire plot while I'm reading this so you can come along with me and you don't actually have to read these books. So the story starts with our main character Blue, which that is a banger of a name. I like coming up with, like, obviously most people who want children have a list of like baby names, and I try not to be ridiculous, but I think Blue would be such a cute name. Beyonce did it first, but moving on. So she basically lives in a house with a bunch of her female family members who all have psychic abilities, and it's giving very much Coven. I love it. I love the dynamic that happens in her house, but her whole thing is that her power is that she just makes everybody else's power stronger. Kind of sucks for her. But we also have the other group of people, the other characters, the Raven Boys, which for the life of me, I cannot figure out. I need to like watch on YouTube how to say it. Aglian B. That's like the name of like the private academy in her small town, which has like all these like rich kids. So I need to look at my notes really quickly. Oops. The story starts where on St. Mark's Eve, she goes with her famous aunt, her half aunt, to the cemetery because every year she, you know, helps her mother write down the names of all these people that are going to die in the next year. And what do you know it? For the first time ever, she sees a spirit, and it's an Aglian bee. I think I killed it just then. An Aglian bee boy. And she is like, oh, I gotta help this guy. And then her aunt's like, so the only reason you would have seen him is if A, he's your true love, because she has a curse on her that when she kisses her true love, he'll die. So she's either destined to fall in love with him or to kill him. So that's where we're at. I'm also in the area where last night, hello. So then we go from, that's kind of Blue's whole thing. Now we go to the Raven Boys, and apparently with the Raven Boys, they're all looking for a dead Welsh king. Unexpected. Because I think the idea is that if they find him, he'll grant them his favor, which is basically just like a wish, I think. And so all four of these boys, which is Gansey, I'm gonna say Gansey, Adam, Ronan, and Noah, are all looking for this guy. I'm a little unclear on what a ley line is. L-E-Y, ley line. I could look it up, but I'm so scared of getting spoilers. I've already like seen fan art on Pinterest because when you're in like the All for the Game fandom, I think they already think you guys are over, like the algorithm is like, oh, they'll like this too. So I have seen a little bit of fan art, but I'm trying my best not to get like super spoiled, so I don't want to look up anything. But yeah, so that's those four. There's also a teacher who, he apparently when he was younger, he was one of these boys and he was also looking for the Welsh king, and now he's realizing, oh crap, there's other kids that are looking for this guy too. So I'm thinking he's gonna be an issue. Gansey just seems like an overall good guy who just doesn't really understand the concept that he's super fucking wealthy. Ronan has daddy issues and bigger brother issues. I'm excited. I do like an angry boy character, so I'm excited to kind of see what his whole deal's about. And then I'm right at the point where it's like Adam and Blue are kind of being set up, which was an unexpected pairing for me. Because obviously Endgame is going to be Gansey and Blue if there is like a full romance subplot. Like I said, I'm going into this blind. I'm trying to be even more blind going into this than I was with All for the Game. But Adam just seems like a little angel baby character, and Blue acknowledges that, and he thinks that she's cute. They're kind of setting them up a little bit, but I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that. current prediction, because I'm not going to do a check-in every 100 pages. I'm going to do a check-in whenever I have time. My current prediction is Adam was mentioning something about like electrocution. There she is. Prediction time. So I think they're talking about how they're looking for this ley line that is, I think it's like basically what they have to follow to like find the dead Welsh king, and how it's very non-specific. Like it's can be like miles and miles wide, or it could be like really, really small. Like they're not sure. But how they think that something could like amplify the signal for them to find it. And like, because they're talking about how Gansey originally met with this kid who had been electrocuted, and so then he had more psychic abilities. So my prediction right now, I am officially 86. I'm on chapter 9. I'm 86 pages into the first book. I think, this could be so wrong, obviously I think Blue's being lined up to kind of be the force that amplifies the ley line. But I think, because from the beginning, we know that Gansey is supposed to die, and if Blue kisses her true love, he's gonna die. I think something's gonna happen where she like kisses him and he gets like electrified or something. I don't know, like electrocuted. That is my current guess. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Hello. Let's do a 50-ish% check-in. Some just general notes about everything that's going on with this book is that I'm really enjoying reading it. Like every chapter I'm loving. I want to like start bringing a pen around with me when I'm reading it just to start underlining all some of the iconic lines that I'm seeing. But I'm having a really hard time just like sitting down and reading it. Like I usually am finding myself reading a chapter, getting up and doing other things, reading a chapter, and the chapters are really short, which I think is helping that kind of flow, but it also means that it's like really slow moving for me. And I just feel like I'm in such a reading slump right now, because I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, it is because of All for the Game. Even though I've read a few books after finishing that, I feel like I was on such a high from that, and now I'm like choosing to read fan fiction over reading this book, which that's an issue in and of itself. When am I gonna stop reading fan fiction? I don't know, probably never, to be honest with you. But anyways, back to this. I did last night decide to buy the next 3 books in the series. So here's hoping I like it. But I did buy them on Thrift Books, so it was a lot cheaper than my original plan was every time I finished to just go to my local bookstore and get the next few. You know, support local businesses. But they would have been, I guess it wouldn't have been too bad. They would have been like $13 each. I got each of them for like $8 each. So, you know, saving money. But let's talk about it. I took some notes and I wanted to do an update because I didn't want to forget everything that happened in between, because I'm trying to like, this is read with me, okay? So let's get into it. So since I last saw you guys, Ronan went missing, and that was a big thing because then we got a little bit of background on not only the fact that, you know, he's a little suicidal, and also that Adam's dad apparently like beats him, which that's so sad. Like all these guys, these like the found family between these guys is so adorable. I can't wait for Blue to be like a part of that. But that's like something I'm a sucker for, is like the found family. I will say Gansey is like basically like a stressed out middle-aged father about these boys. But yeah, so that happens. Ronan goes missing. They find him in a church and he has a little bird. I am obsessed with, so he finds a bird. That's what it is. Oh, sorry. Ronan finds a little like baby raven, and they're like, ooh, that's super symbolic. What are the odds he finds a raven? And he goes, I'm gonna name it Chainsaw. obsessed with that. I, first of all, am obsessed with angry characters who are trying to be gentle. See my love for Jean Moreau. And I also love a man with an accent, which is why I think I like Adam, or I like Adam right off the bat. Again, see Jean Moreau. But also with naming the Raven Chainsaw, during COVID, I randomly found like 2 baby ducks in my backyard, and I named them Hot Sauce and Peanut Butter. And then when I took them to the rescue, because I didn't know what to do with these ducks, I was like, their names are Hot Sauce and Peanut Butter. I don't know which is which, but their names are Hot Sauce and Peanut Butter. And the lady was like, heard. Like, very serious. And I was like, I love you. But that was a very cute scene, because then, well, not cute, because, you know, they were like really stressed out looking for him because he'd just gotten into a fight with his brother. That's also a thing. Ronan has big brother issues. Apparently he has a younger brother too, but I haven't met him yet. But it was like a really cute scene. Cute to like see how much they all cared about each other. And then an intro to Chainsaw. There's also something off about Noah. The way that he just like keeps appearing, and like he appears in the church doorways after, you know, Gansey leaves him at home. Or I love Blue described him as looking like he'd been laundered one too many times, or like overly laundered, which I think is so funny. That is such a hilarious way to describe someone, but there's something weird about him. There's something weird about that man. I don't know what. And then the next day, Adam's missing from school, and it turns out it's because his dad hit him, and he has like a massive bruise and he can't go to school like that. And so he's missing school, which is gonna be bad for his grades. Oh my gosh. And so Gansey tries to convince him to like basically run away and like come live with them in their like apartment, which seems like it's kind of like an old factory they've like changed into an apartment building. That's the vibe I got from it. And he's like, no, I can't. And then they get into a little bit of a fight. And then it's really cute because Gansey's about to like drive away in anger. And Adam's like, no, don't leave. Like, let's not leave like this. I'm like, it's very cute. Then Welk shows up, the creepy teacher. He shows up for a reading, just like out of the blue. And they never sit, like, he never introduces himself, but you know it's Welk, like based on what the reading says. And Kala, one of Blue's like aunts, is so funny because first of all, she comes up later, but in this one, she like hates the guy, and she's like, what is this weirdo? This is a weird man. Like, she kind of says that in front of him. And then when he like finally leaves, like in anger, because they're like, bro, like, you're weird, get out, after giving him the reading, Kala's like, well, no, Mora, so Blue's mom, is like, if you ever see him in public, turn around and leave. And Kala's like, no, kick him in the, before you do that, before you run around and leave, or turn around and leave. So she's really funny. But then there's like a reading where it's like there's 3 knights, and then there's 3 page of cups, and so it's like a lot of symbolism that I'm gonna have to come back to later, because I am so bad with foreshadowing and symbolism like that. But I do know that Blue kind of is represented by the page of cups, which then comes back later. So then the next day, no, later that day, Blue finally like officially meets the Raven boys, like she knows their names because Gansey comes for his reading. And so that's when she's like, ooh, she's like, something about like that notebook belonged to Gansey, and that meant that Adam belonged to Gansey. I'm like, what? But that's because she's like having like her little crush on Adam, which comes back later because he sends her flowers. Oh my god. Again, did not see that pairing happening, but this is like, whatever happens, happens. I'm enjoying it, even though I thought it was gonna be other pairings. But then, you know, Kala, like I said, she comes back because she absolutely clocks Ronan, because Ronan's like, how do I know? Like, you guys, like, you're telling us what anybody could tell us. Like, it's not that I'm a skeptic, it's that I don't believe you guys. And then Kala has this like ability where if she can touch something, then she like can see, like, her psychic abilities, or like she can see stuff, and she touches the back of his tattoo and is like, so your father died and you know why. And he's like, books it out of there. And you're like, oh, I'm excited to hear about that storyline. But then Blue's like the one passing out the cards, and every time Gansey picks, it's the Page of Cups, which is blue, and so Mora's like kind of freaking out. She's like, no, that's not your card, that's not your card. Blue, like, pick another card, and she picks another card, and it's Page of Cups. And then finally, Gansey picks his card, which is the Death card, and then Mara freaks out, and then finally, okay, I am starting to understand what the Lee line is. I'm gonna say Lee line, L-E-Y line. That's how I'm gonna say it from now on. But so turns out now I'm finally understanding what that is, because the Lee line is the corpse road that, you know, every single year Mora and Blue go to like write down the names of like who's gonna die in the next year. And so they're like, so do you know something about it? And Mora, and they're all like, no, we don't know anything, bye, like I'll call you if I do. And then Gansey's like, cut the shit, like you guys know something, I'd rather you just tell me you know something and you're not gonna help me than you lie to me. And Mora goes, I know something and I'm not gonna help you, bye. So girl boss. But now I'm finally understanding. And for some reason, this is what I don't understand. Like, leave it there, I guess, because Blue, if you know that your prophecy is that, first of all, her prophecy is that she's gonna kill her true love, and she also knows that she's either going to fall in love with Gansey or kill Gansey, you know, they could be two different people, girl. If you stay, like, I'm just saying, I would have personally stayed away. But she decides that she's gonna help them figure out where the lean line is because she knows where it is, and she's also the one who has like the abilities to kind of amplify others' abilities. Girl, like at this point you want him to die. I don't know. And then we find out Gansey's deathly allergic to wasps and bees, and he's died once because of it. And we all, like, everybody knows this because, like, Ronan, like, sees the wasp that Gansey's, like, trying to kill, and he kills it, and he, like, very specifically throws it away so Gansey won't step on it. And we find out that he's died before, because of it, and he keeps his EpiPen in his car's glove box. Like, babe, I think that's something you should carry around with you all the time, but that's neither here nor there. But I do think that's gonna become relevant later. And then Ronan and Gansey have an argument. This is why I think Noah's sus. They have an argument where when Gansey went to go kind of confront Adam about, like, not confront him, but be like, yo, why are you not at school? It's because your dad's hitting you. Yeah, your dad is hitting you. And they get into a little argument. When Gansey's trying to convince him to leave, he's like, because Gansey jumps around from school to school, you learn, because he's looking for this thing. And Adam knows that, and he's like, okay, well, when you leave, like, what's gonna happen to me? Like, I have to be here, I have to have all these jobs, like, I have to survive, because Gansey kind of offered to, like, help pay for him if, like, he lost his job or, like, anything like that, which, like, that was the source of their fight, is, like, this money thing. And then Gansey's like, well, I would take you with me. And then later, this night with the wasp, Gansey and Ronan's like, I heard you and Parrish are planning on leaving. And what we're gonna do, leave me behind? And he's like, who told you that? And he's like, Noah. How does Noah know that? How does Noah know that? That happened in a car, like in Henrietta, just the two of them. Sus. But then you get a really cute scene where like Ronan is like waking up every 2 hours to hand feed Chainsaw like little mealworms. It's so cute. And then the next day is when Blue gets flower delivery and then ends up deciding that something's weird about Neve, her aunt, like her half aunt, being there. She still doesn't know why she's there and why she's still there, and she knows her mom's hiding something from her. And then that's when she kind of like lets it slip that she's gonna help the Raven boys find whatever they're looking for, like find the Lee line, and basically, girl, maybe if you didn't do this, maybe you wouldn't have caused a death. But I get it, prophecies, you know, it's always gonna happen, whatever. But that is 50% of the way. I'm probably gonna do, hopefully a shorter, this is 13 minutes. I'm probably gonna do like a shorter, like check-in. I'm assuming this video is going to be very long. So strap in if you've gotten this far. So I'll see ya in a bit. Hello everybody, I am back. I am not quite 75% of the way through the book, but I need to do my check-in now. I was planning on doing a check-in at every quarter. I need to do it now because some stuff just went down, which I knew it, but some stuff just went down and I need to check in before I just like completely devour the rest of it, which also I know I'm gonna like read the last of it just like all in one go, but I did order the rest of the books off of Thrift Books and I just got the notification that they're not gonna get here until June 4th, which honestly I should have just ordered books 3 and 4 off of Thrift Books and then went to buy the second book from the store, but I didn't. I might get it on Kindle if I can't wait that long. But girl, okay, I have my phone again because I was taking notes, just so I can make sure I didn't forget anything important. So since the last time I did a check-in, Adam called Blue after giving her those flowers and invited her on a helicopter ride. And I thought he was joking. I really did. I thought he was joking, and then they pull up and there is a helicopter. And the pilot is Gansy's sister, Helen, who I didn't really expect to meet in person, but she was I liked her. I liked her a lot. And then once they're in the helicopter, they kind of realize like that somehow Blue already kind of knew Gansy, and that's when she lets it slip that she had seen Gansy. Like, she didn't say that she saw his spirit, but she said that she saw him in a church, like an apparition kind of. I know that's a spirit, but she didn't really like say all that. And then they realize, they're like, oh my god, that was Blue's voice on the recorder from the very first chapter. Yeah, and of course, she doesn't say, like, you were on Corpse Road, you're gonna die in a year. Ugh. But then when they're flying, it's a little unclear, but apparently, like, from the air, they can see, like, the shape of a raven. Like this, perhaps. And then that causes them to land, and then they find this random clearing in a tree that they all go inside, besides Ronan, because he says that he's too freaked out, and he's like, well, he doesn't say he's too freaked out, but he's obviously freaked out. It's like, I'm not going in there. They all go in and close their eyes, and they see a vision, and Adam goes first, and when he comes out, then Blue goes in, and Blue sees like a vision of Gansy being like, it's okay, Blue, kiss me, I'm ready to die. Like, what? And when she comes out, Adam's like, I would never do that. Like, don't think of me that way. I would never do that, because I think he thinks that they saw the same thing. And then in the next chapter, you find out that, or in a few chapters later, you find out that he basically saw Gansy dying, and everybody, I think like Brona was like, are you happy now? Like, is this what you wanted? And then Gansy, all he says is that he saw Glendower. But then after that, Blue starts like actually hanging out with them and is like, I've never disobeyed my mom before, but it was really easy to like hang out with them. Her mom does find out later, and I thought it was going to be more of a big blow up. She is one of those moms that like doesn't know how to discipline her child. So she doesn't. She just is like, I'm really upset and disappointed, and makes sassy comments about it, but she doesn't do anything to stop her, you know? Ronan obviously doesn't like Blue. I don't know why yet, but I think he just is like, you know, he seems one of those like pretty exclusive people to just his friend group. He's tolerating her, but he doesn't like her. But I feel like they're gonna be besties. I feel like that's because I think she's too involved with the other two for like kind of like a weird like kind of love triangle thing that I feel like's being teased a bit. So I think her and Ronan are just gonna be really good friends, and it's surprising that her and Noah are friends. Y'all know how I feel about Noah, and you're gonna see why. So then they go back to the clearing later that they saw, like that they were in the helicopter, and they go back on foot. Also, they were gone for, they said what should have been 40 minutes, and it turned out to only be 7. It's either 7 or 13. Wow, it's a really big range. I can't remember. Anyways, but so they go and they see something like written on a rock that's like really worn down, and they're reading it, and they realize it's like some crude joke or something. And then Ronan's like, that's my handwriting. Like, just so obviously he had written that. And the joke was because it was like, he thinks it was whatever self wrote that to like tell like that told him like just like a sign, right? I don't know. I'm not explaining this right. Whatever. And then basically it's like, talk to the trees speak Latin. They start speaking back and forth. They're like, we're happy to see the psychic's daughter, Blue, and we're happy to see, they call Ronan something. I can't remember what they call him. Whatever. And then just Noah was being so suspicious. What did they say? Oh, only Gansey and Noah could hear the trees speaking in Latin. Why can Noah hear it too? Huh. And then there's the line, if you wake the line, they'll be in your debt. Suspicious. And then they're leaving the trees, like tell them to go a certain way, and they're like, oh, they think that you'll find something that you're interested in. What do they find? They find a red Mustang. That I actually went back and searched for this like 100 and something pages before. Guess who picks up Welk? His friend that we know dies picked him up in a red Mustang. They find a red Mustang with dowsing rods in it. Listen, I was just like starting to put pieces together at that moment, and I was like, no way, I'm like, that's what's happening. But then the next chapter, Blue and Gansey decide to go to the church by themselves because everybody else, Ronan's at church. I don't know where Noah was. We'll know where Noah was. I didn't know where Noah was, and then Adam was at work or something, so they go. Blue does tell him her prophecy that she's supposed to kiss her true love and he'll die. Interesting lore drop there. But then he also drops the lore that apparently when he died the first time, because he got stung by a bunch of like bees, he tells like the traumatic story about it. He heard, you will live because of Glendower. Someone else on the lead line is dying when they should not, and so you will live when you should not. I had to write that down and take a video of it because I was like, I'm gonna forget this. So I wrote that down. And then what happens? They are led by the little EMF meter they have to a decomposing skeleton, and in the skeleton's pocket, Noah's license. That little freak. There was something wrong with him, but he was also kind of like an interesting little freak. The few times that he said anything, and he was really sassy, and he's just like, he was kind of cute the way that like he really liked Blue. I was suspicious of him. Did not think that's where that was going. Well, when I was starting to put together like the red Mustang and everything like that, I'm like, I was like, Welk's calling this kid by his last name. They go by their last names. All of them call each other by their last names, but they call Noah. What's his last name? I was like, no, that's too big brained of you. That's you're too smart. I feel like I watched Shutter Island recently, and somebody told me that it was a really, really good plot twist. So I went in looking for the plot twist. And so I think I was still on that mindset, and I guessed it. I ended up guessing the plot twist for that one before it happened. So I feel like I was still in that little mindset. So like when I started seeing some weird things, I was like, that's suspicious. That's weird. And it turns out I was right. I was like right to be suspicious of that little kid. But that was crazy. All right, I've talked for almost 9 minutes now, just like giving you guys a description. This video is going to be so long, but I am trying to fit all 4 of the books in this. So next time you see me, I'll be done with the book, and hopefully I will have the next 3 in my hands so I can read them. So I'll see ya. Hello everybody, I just finished The Raven Boys, and oh my god, I'm like buzzing. I am buzzing from that ending. Literally gave myself, I talk about this all the time, I gave myself the human zoomies. I did in fact read this all in one go, the last probably 25 to 30%. But when I say all in one go, I mean I would read a chapter, get up, zoom around my room, sit down to read another chapter. It was so good. Honestly, the ending was so cute. Such a cute ending, but like, let's just tap back in. So, I, of course, have my notes about everything that happened since I last saw you guys. All right, so I cannot believe the last time I last talked to you guys is when they had found Noah's bones, because so much happens. I was gagged after that. Like, so Gansey reasonably freaks out and they rush home and they try to find Noah. They're like, where is he? Where is he? And they're like, we just found bones in the woods. And Adam, or Ronan, I think, goes, whose bones are there? And Noah appears and says, mine. Oh my god, that really got me. But then they're like talking to each other and they're like, so which one of you has classes with him? Nobody has classes with him. Do you guys know his last name? Because I didn't know his last name. Have you ever seen him eat? And at the very beginning of the freaking book, I went back and there's like one point where they're like, come on Noah, come to the pizza place with us, we won't make you eat. And I'm like, okay, weird. But then it's because they'd never seen him eat before because he's dead. Oh my god. And then now, instead of like being like a full boy, he starts like haunting them, where like little things happen, like all at like they hear his voice and like a door will close. He comes in and out of being a person and just like an entity, and it is so good. And like most of the time he's like a full entity when Blue is there, because you know Blue has her whole like magnifying thing. I love a character who haunts the narrative, and I feel like this is the literal way that this happens is so good. Okay, so then they find out Ronan's gonna be expelled, and Gansey drops 30K, like, as a bribe to keep Ronan in school, which, that's crazy. This man is a stressed out father. It is insane. I feel like that's gonna come back to bite him. His dad's gonna be like, his dad appeared like a few minutes later in the scene and was just like a normal, nice guy, and I think that's gonna come back, but whatever. And then there's a really awkward moment where Blue is talking to Adam and he's calling her pretty, and then he's like, she's like, you can't kiss me, I'm too young. And he's like, okay, do you still want me to call you pretty? And I feel like I love Adam, but I can't enjoy the romance between like the cute little things between him and Blue, because I don't feel like they're endgame. I feel like it's quite obvious that her and Gansey are endgame, and I have never been a love triangle person. Like, I remember in like 2012, like, you know, like the early 2010s when love triangles were the thing. I hated that. That was hell for me as a reader. I didn't want that. I just want, you know, person A, person B, whatever. So I found it kind of hard to enjoy those scenes between the two of them. But it's really, really funny because then Ronan just comes in, like, obviously having heard the weird conversation they're having. It's really cute because then Ronan shows Blue chainsaw, and then Noah comes back. That's the first time that he comes back. And they kind of get a little bit of the story about how he was killed, and it was like by a friend who was sacrificing him to the lean line to wake up Glendower. And I thought that at this point I was like, oh, easy connection, duh, like we know it's Welk, blah blah blah, but they don't know it's Welk. But apparently just from him saying like, you know, already know who it is, they made the connection. I don't know. And then the next chapter, Gansey's car breaks down, just happens to stumble upon Welk, who has a gun, and who's like, give me your notebook. Give me all your notebook. The cops are coming after me. The cops are asking all these questions after 7 years. Like, they obviously know it's me. And Gansey's like, holy crap, like, he killed Noah. Lots happens in this last, like, 25%. In the last 10 pages. I'm gonna get to that later, but, yeah, and Gansey gets away because he punches him and breaks his thumb, which is a very cute callback because, earlier Blue's thinking about punching someone, and Kala's like, don't forget, don't put your thumb in your fist or you'll break it. And then they're like, hey Blue, your Raven boys are here, and one of them just broke his thumb. It's just like a really cute callback. Adam goes home, Adam's dad starts wailing on him, and Ronan beats him up. It is so good because then to save Ronan from being arrested, Adam has to press charges against his dad, and though it isn't what he wants, like he's very proud. I love Adam's character. He's very proud, like, he wants to save himself, he wants to get out of his situation through his hard work, and I think that's why he doesn't want the help of Gansey and Ronan, and he's upset that he's not leaving on his own terms, but that was a crazy scene. But I was like, pumping my fist, like, yeah! They're like, when they said that, like, because Ronan's driving away right when it starts happening, and they're like, his tail lights turn on, like, and his brake lights, and they're like, yeah, he's coming back. And then Neve calls Welk. Ooh, and she's like, I've changed my mind. I've decided to help you. And I couldn't tell if it was her trying to help Blue, or if it was her, because they find out when they go through her things that she's kind of, like, fame hungry, and so I was like, I can't tell if she's doing this because she's like a good aunt or and trying to help Blue, or because she wants the fame from getting something from Glendower. I think that's what it was. Like, now that I'm thinking about it more, because later stuff happens and I couldn't really tell what was going on. And then there's another scene where Adam and Gansey fight, and then we see that Gansey has really low self-worth, and I think he's just like projecting taking care of his Raven boys and even Blue to like get around that. And I love all of these characters, like genuinely all of them. I love them. And then he's also like, he has a moment where he's like upset that Noah died for him to live, and then I feel so bad for him because like there's multiple times where people are like, Gansey, this isn't about you, and he's like obviously like going through it. And people are like, it's not about you right now. And I'm like, oh my God. And then Blue answers a phone call from Mallory, and he tells her that him and a colleague tried to do the sacrifice, and the other person literally lost their skin. And then Adam, the little smart child he is, decides to go wake up the Lee line himself, and he brings a gun with him. He brings a gun. It's mystical magical forces, but let's bring a gun. Okay, smart. At this point, I was on chapter 44 out of 48, had 20 pages left, and the climax was like still building up, and I didn't know what was gonna happen. Again, I had to keep closing the book, taking a break. I had to force myself to finish before the sun went down fully so I could film this video. Also, that being said, I wasn't gonna finish this until it's Sunday right now. I was gonna force myself to finish it on Tuesday because my books were supposed to get here on Wednesday, and I woke up to the notification that they're gonna hear tomorrow. Thank God. And then we followed, okay, so I didn't take very many notes at this point because stuff was going down and I was just in it. So we started following Adam, who went back to Clearwater, like into the woods, and it's like super dark, but then he steps over the creek and boom, it's light. Very, what's the word for it? It's like very nice how that all worked out, right? So we could actually see what was going on during this whole thing. Stumbles upon a ritual that Neve set up, because Neve was gonna kill Welk to wake up the Lee line, but then Welk like, she didn't tie him up tight enough, so he was just biding his time until she explains the freaking ritual to him, and then he overpowers her, throws her in the middle of the ritual, like the pentagram, until Adam comes in, and then, like, oh my God, then Gansey, Blue, and Ronan show up, the gun is pulled out, so much happened. Basically, then Adam decides that he's going to sacrifice himself, and this is him saving himself on his own terms, which I thought was cute. Not cute. Cute's not the right word. It was very good. I don't know how else to put it. This is also like a middle grade book. It has like Scholastic. Like, that's the publisher. It's YA. Whatever. But so Adam decides to sacrifice himself. Bulk shoots him. Of course, he survives, right? And then, like, a crazy medieval, a stampede of white elk, I think it was. It was white something. Come, and Blue, Gansey, and Adam throw themselves into the tree that show them visions, and they see visions. It's basically just like Gansey trying to kiss Blue. Like, that was what she sees. And then when they come back out, Welk has been trampled by the stampede, and Adam's just standing there like perfectly fine. And I don't know what's up Gansey's whatever, but he was like, you killed him by not letting him into the pentagram with you. And he was like, and Adam's like, what was I supposed to do? Like, he's a murderer. I just avenged Noah. So honestly, like, to me that seems pretty justified. I was also on Adam's side. I was like, Gansey, why are you mad? Like, this solves quite a few of the problems that you guys were having, but it's neither here nor there. And then they go to Noah's funeral where they see his parents and Blue, and Noah's like, can you go say something? Go say something to them. Tell her I'm sorry I drank her birthday schnapps, because his mom is like not crying. Like, she's very clearly like holding it together very well. And then Blue goes up to him. She's like, no, I don't want to. He's like, go please. And she goes up and they're like, no, like, don't say anything. Like, you know, because they don't want someone. It's very reasonable that you wouldn't want a girl who says she's a psychic's daughter to come talk to you about your dead son. And then she says, like, he's sorry for drinking your birthday schnapps. And the mom starts crying, and it's like, what a sweet scene. But what's unhinged is with the last 3 pages are them digging up Noah's bones and taking him back to the church where she sees Gansey dying later. And they bury him there because it's on the Lee line. And he comes back, and it's so cute. Like, that's a horrible word to describe what I just told you. They dig up bones to rebury them, and they get their friend back. The banter in this is hilarious. Let me talk about some of my thoughts. Is hilarious. I love their interactions together. I love Blue's family, like Persephone, Mora, Kala. I can't wait to find out more about Blue. Oh, I forgot to touch on this. So the reason why Neve was there the whole time is because Mora was like, can you help me find, well, actually no, Neve was there for nefarious reasons, but she had said that she was going to help her Mora find Blue's dad. And apparently we find out, oh, I forgot so many things. So let's just focus on this. So basically, Mora tells Blue that when her, Persephone, and Kala were younger, they were playing in Clearwater. Well, not playing. They were in Clearwater, trying rituals and messing around and stuff in this like magic place they found. And then all of a sudden, a guy named Artemis, questionable, pops out, falls in love with Mora, gets her knocked up. As soon as Blue is born, he's gone. And so they're like, we think you're the result of a ritual. And she's like, so you're saying him leaving you was my fault, which is really funny. But they also, I forgot that in the middle of the ritual, you probably noticed that I stopped talking about Neve. She literally disappears. So while like they're like Blue, Gansey, and Ronan go to like find Adam, her mom and her friends move the mirrors in Neve's rooms around, and then that traps her soul, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. So much happened. The one thing I really, really want is that we have gotten the POV for most of the characters, like the main ones that we care about. Obviously, we haven't gotten the POV from Noah, but we've gotten it from Blue, Gansey, and Adam. Give me Ronan. I want inside that man's head. He's definitely my favorite character. And let me read the last line. Well, I'll read you the last 2 paragraphs. Ronan, still in the ruins, looked over his shoulder at them. In the dim light of the flashlights, the tattooed hook that edged out above his collar looked like either a claw or a finger or a part of a fleur-de-lis. It was nearly as sharp as his smile. I guess now would be a good time to tell you, he said. I took Chainsaw out of my dreams. Huh? I cannot wait. Ah! That's my cat running into my camera. Anyways, I cannot wait for book 2. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. I think I might just go to bed. I might just go to bed because then I immediately have to get up for work, and by the time I get home from work, my books will be here. Great book. And I have a patient whose friend recommended her these books, and I told her I was reading them. So she said she's also gonna read them. So I might have to take this and immediately lend it to her because Oh my god. Great. I've been talking for 16 minutes this time. I will see you guys at my first check-in for book 2. Good morning. They came in the mail. I got books 2, books 3, and books 4. I think there must have been a reprint of the covers. I have to believe. I'm not getting up to pick up the first book. I'm not. I'm already on the floor. But this one and the first book, the second book and the first book, have like the more human looking, you see what I'm saying? Like main characters. You can see, I assume this is Ronan, his face a little bit less than you could see the faces in the first book. But then I feel like the design is slightly different on these two. And I've seen a different version of the first book that I kind of want. But I don't want to overconsume books. Anyways, I now have a fire lit under my butt to finish these books because I have a patient who, she is wonderful. Like, she is every like book person's like dream, where you give her a book and you're like, you should read this. She will read it and bring it back to me with an analysis before, like, at her next appointment, which is usually only like 3 days away. And to be fair, she is recovering from surgery, so she's not doing a whole lot. But I appreciate her so much. But she's also my age. One of her friends told her to read this series, and it was on her TBR. And so she said, oh my god, Chloe, bring me the first book next time. So I had to finish the first book so I can bring it to her tomorrow. And I'm like, she's like, oh, I'll read it in one sitting. So I have to read this really quickly. So I'm gonna try to probably give check-ins. It might not be the pretty sit down. This video is gonna be so long. Oh my god. But whatever. Let's read the back of the book 2. I'm so excited. I read it last night. But Ronan Lynch has secrets. Some he keeps from others. Some he keeps from himself. One secret: Ronan can bring things out of his dreams. And sometimes he's not the only one who wants those things. Ronan is one of the Raven Boys, a group of friends, practically brothers, searching for a dead king named Glendower, who they think is hidden somewhere in the hills by the elite private school, Agamby Academy. The path to Glendower has long lived as an undercurrent beneath town, but now, like Ronan's secrets, it is beginning to rise to the surface, changing everything in its wake. I'll be honest, I don't care a singular bit about Glendower. I really don't know where the plot's going now. I assume they're still trying to find him, but I'm like, I just love the characters so much, like all of the characters. The only two I didn't like were Welk and Neve, and Welk took care of himself. Well, that took care of himself. And I'm sure Neve will be back, but whatever. I'm just so jazzed to see what these like kids do. Ugh. And it was so funny. I was like telling my patient, I was like, yeah, they're Scholastic books. Like, Scholastic. And she was like, are they written for kids? And I'm like, I think they're written for teenagers, but I am eating it up. That also being said, I did bargain with her that because she's reading these books and she's read so many of my other recommendations, I have to read the Shatter Me series. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I don't know. I gotta focus on this. All right, I will see you guys at some sort of check-in. Hello. It is the same day as my last chatting clip that I have in here. I am a fourth of the way through, and I'm reading this one so much faster. Let me readjust. So much faster than the last one because we finally get Ronan POV, and I really needed to just talk about it before I completely forgot and read the entire book. Let's get into what happened. Trying to readjust what happened in the first fourth. Okay, I made it a little higher, but let's talk about it. All right, so the book opens with Blue and the gang hiking on the Lee line, and they test out Ronan's new airplane because if you remember, the very last line of the first book was Ronan being like, by the way, guys, I can pull things out of my dreams, thus the dream thieves. And they like don't really believe, well, Gansey believes everything he says and Adam's a skeptic, and it opens with them testing out his new little airplane that he dreamed, just kind of showing off that the things he dreams are real. And then we get the intro of the Gray Man. Oh my god. Basically he shows up and he's already just like a hilariously sassy character. Starts a fist fight with Declan. He just like busts into his room and demands to know where the Grey Warren is, which I distinctly remember from the first book was with the trees. I think we're calling, my hair looks so bad right now. Whatever. That's what the trees, sorry, I could not ignore that actually. I need to wash my hair. But back to it. So this man busts into Declan's dorm, completely beats the shit out of him. A gun is pulled. What is with all of these guns? A gun is pulled at some point. And the Gray Man says, you know where the Grey Warren is. You're gonna bring it to me. And that's how this is gonna work. And Declan says, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll find it. He's like, I know what it is. I don't know where it is. He's like, I'll find it if you all leave me alone. Or you leave us alone, he says. So there are people looking for this, and again, I know that it has something to do with Ronan, so he's fucked. But then, finally in chapter 3, we get the full Ronan POV, which when I tell you, it's very entertaining for you to be in your favorite character's head. I always have side character syndrome, where I love a side character, and this is really feeding me where I'm getting what I wanted from, I guess he was a main character, but you get what I'm saying. Ronan dreams up a box that has the way it's described, there's like a bunch of dials on it, and on each of the sides, there's a different language, and I know it's English, and then there's Greek, and then I think French was one of the languages, I can't remember. But it all works and they're trying to figure out what it is, and I have a feeling it's gonna help them decode something later. And then there was a weird part of the scene where they're at Nino's. They're at that a lot more because like Blue works there. Where there's this new character that's come in named, I think his first name's Joseph, but his last name is Kavinsky, who is just trouble. He's the guy that Ronan like street races all the time, drives a Mitsubishi. I haven't heard that name in so long. And then this kid comes in and he just drops a pile of leather bracelets onto the table for Ronan. And like, Ronan's like, oh, like they like look exactly like Ronan's. And I'm like, is there multiple of the people that can dream something? I don't know. You know what it was just weird. And I'm like, that was obviously some sort of significant scene that I think went over my head. And then Adam has a little drama moment where he gets really pissed off because his landlady comes in and says, hey, guess what? There's this new tax break and your rent's being lowered by $200 a month, so you're gonna save $2,400 over the next year. And that's just coincidentally how how much the tuition went up for at Glenby. And then he calls Gansey to like yell at him about it, and then later we find out like Ronan's listening to them argue, and you find out that Ronan's actually the one that did it and helped pay him off, like pay the nun off basically. And I love Ronan. But also there's like, I think this is a really good scene where Blue's there when Adam finds this out and he's getting really mad, and he snaps at her and she's like, you're not gonna treat me like this. I'm gonna go sit outside until you can be a human being and talk to me. And then he also has one of those realizations like, this is like what I learned from my father type thing. And it's just like a very nice representation where he's like struggling with not to becoming his father. And then Ronan, he's just my favorite character. I think the little interactions between the friends and the found family, and even later, like, between, like, the actual, like, the Lynch siblings, are just, the background of what's happening is so cute. Like, there's a scene where the main part that's going on is that Gansey's asking Adam if he would go to some Congress thing with Gansey's mom, and it's gonna help, you know, Adam get an internship and all this, yada yada yada. And in the background, Ronan throws Noah out of a window because they're dropping shit out of the window, and then he drops Noah out of it and he's like, "You're dead anyways, like, you're fine." And Gansey's like, "Yeah, Noah looked no worse for wear," so he just went back to talking to Adam. So funny. Ronan then has another dream where there's this orphan girl that I think has been his, like, kind of like dream friend since childhood. She's like scared of all the stuff going on in his mind, and she's saying, "Take me with you." And then she tells him, like, "Oh, don't forget, you gotta do that." And then that's when he writes, "The trees speak Latin" on the stone that we see, that we saw in the first book. Time's a circle. Something's going on in that forest, obviously. And then the scene that I just finished was the randomly adorable scene in the church between all the siblings, because that's, like, the whole thing, is that we finally meet Matthew, the third of the Lynch siblings, who's apparently this, like, golden boy who just makes his brothers go to church with him every Sunday. And then, you know, Declan has a moment where he's, like, saying, "Stay away from Kavinsky being, like, a caring older brother," and Ron's like, "Oh, are we having a conversation right now? Is that what's happening?" But it's just, like, a really cute interaction. And I will check in 100 more pages. I hope you guys are enjoying this, because it's a little different from the Alfred game when I was just telling you guys how much I was enjoying it. This time I'm actually trying to give you guys the plot summary. So if you guys want to read along with me saying that in the middle of the second book. But there's 3 and 4, so yeah. But I'll see you guys soon. Alright, I gotta make this one quick because I have to go to work, but I'm about 50% of the way through, so I think that's adequate enough. Okay, let's just go. So the next thing that happens after the last time we talked, Blue is kind of subtly starting to become a little bit more attractive to Gansey, and every time she, like, thinks about that, she's, like, turns her attention, like, "No, Fate, like, I'm choosing the other one," like, talking about Adam. And I'm sure that's gonna bode really well for her in the future when she falls in love with him, but whatever. It's starting to make me feel bad for Adam, just because, like, he has a lot going on, and he, like, in the most recent thing I, like, read, like, probably a few chapters ago, he kind of clocked it. Like, Blue and, like, Gansey, like, got up close to each other, and he was, like, watching from the back, and he was, like, seeing their hair touch, that he like, clocked it for a second, and it makes me feel so bad for him. But he's been pissing me off. But the gray man then shows up to Blue's house, and Mora, Kala, and Persephone are all like, "Oh my god, he's attractive," and they, like, do a cutie little, like, pull a card for him. He fully keeps telling people that he's a hitman, and I assume that is not a joke. Oh, fixed. Okay. But Mora, like, fully thinks this man is, like, attractive, and they have, like, a little thing going on, like, side-eyeing each other. I don't want that romance. Then, they try to go back to Cave's Water for the first time since Adam made his sacrifice. It's gone. The car breaks down. They have to call Declan to come help them, and Ronan and him get into an argument. Again, like, what's new? There was a line that said, like, "So Declan and Ronan fought," which just means that both of them are still breathing. I love the way that this Maggie Stiefvater, I love the way she writes. It tickled me. Then we get the freakiest chapter where we are still following We're following one of Ronan's dreams. This man, first of all, the little orphan girl that's been walking around with him in his dreams, who keeps like begging him, take me with you, she calls herself a psychopomp. I've listened to enough Abstract by Hosier that I know what that is. It's supposed to be like the dream, like a spirit guide that helps a spirit cross to the other side, if that's what I'm remembering correctly. I could just look it up right now, but I gotta go. We gotta keep going. No, not my Ronan. No, you can't do that, queen. But then the dream gets so scary. Like, so there's in his house, like the barns that Ronan's technically not allowed to go back to because of the will right now. He remembers there's a mask on the wall, and that's what he's looking at when the dream starts, because I think he wants to take the mask. You know, like he dreams things because he wants to take them. And then all of a sudden Adam is there, and Adam puts on the mask, and then he turns into this like evil Adam, and the real one is like trying to get the mask off from under it. And so Ronan grabs it and pulls it, and he pulls the skin off of his face. And then you have this like zombie Adam or something, because then he's like, oh, it's turning into a nightmare. Uh-oh. And then basically then you get, it switches immediately to Gansey's point of view, and Noah's like calling him to Ronan, and then we get this horrific scene where, first of all, it's kind of sad because Ronan's like, so you remember last year when you guys all thought I tried to kill myself? Actually, it was a monster from one of my dreams that came and it was like one of my nightmares that tried to kill me. And guess what? I just pulled it back into the real world with me. And like Gansey and Ronan have to like fist fight. They have to like stab this thing and kill this thing. And then he just cutie mentions that one got out. Which I'm thinking, like, I don't know if that's like the nightmare that got out, like the thing that he calls, I can't remember what he calls them. The like nightmare things that are like bird monsters and horrifying. They have like massive claws and stuff. I can't remember what he calls them, but I don't know if it's one of those that got out or if it's a dream Adam that got out, which that's gonna cause some issues. And then for whatever reason, they're like, the only place we can bury this monster is at the barns. So they go back, and we get like just like this heartbreaking scene of Ronan like Gansey mentioning that he's like glimpsing. You can kind of see that Gansey's like seeing the old Ronan that he like first became friends with. There's a scene where he like holds up a little barn mouse to his cheek, and he's like, this is how you can hear its heartbeat. Oh my god. But it's so freaky because all the cows, all the animals, and his mother, Ronan's mother, are all like frozen in time, but they're still breathing, and they all like have their eyes closed. Well, the mother has her eyes closed, and they're like, what he says, I can't remember if it's in Latin or if he says it in English, because there's a lot of Latin here that I've been looking up, but he's like, not death, but his brother's sleep. So then they go back. Do they go to, yeah, they go to Kala, who's like they're trying to explain all this to her, and she's so funny. She does this entire conversation hanging from aerial silks. Queen. But she then tells them like, oh, you're a dreamer, and they start talking about it and say that Ronan's mom was pulled from his dad's dream, and because the dreamer's dead, like his dad died, there's no more input. Like, it's like a computer waiting for input. First of all, that is horrific. This woman was birthed from a dream and then had to give birth to three sons. Ronan, are you real, if that is your mother? I have a lot of concerns about that. But then they decide that the only way to wake her up is to bring her to Caves Water. So they're like, oh, we gotta find it. We gotta find that again. And then I just finished the chapter where it's Ronan talking to his younger brother Matthew, and it's spliced in between the will. And they keep saying like that Ronan was his dad's, or Matthew says that Ronan was his dad's favorite because he was also a dreamer. But then Ronan's like really mad because in the will it's like the barns are left to you, but you legally cannot go to them. Otherwise, like, you're gonna lose everything. And then Matthew's like, yeah, Declan says that you and Dad were dreamers and you're gonna make us lose everything. And Ronan realizes that Declan also knew about the dreaming thing. So that's where I'm at. I really have got to step up my reading on this because I need to finish this by Monday for my patient. But I'll see you guys again soon. That was not any faster and I've got to go to work. Okay, bye. Hello everybody, we're back. Time for another check-in. I know I always say this, like, we're not quite at the point that I would want to do the check-in at. I would say that's about, okay, it's about like 70% of the way till the end. But I felt like the shift coming, you know, and like right when you're like going up, if you remember from your language arts classes as a kid, you know, when you're going up towards the climax, we're like near the top, like things are about to happen. And I know it's another one of those things where I have to just sit and finish the rest of it in one go. So let's do a really quick update. So from where I left off last time, the gray man breaks into Monmouth Manufacturing, their apartment, and surprisingly, as he's like poking around, 2 other guys come in, just random guys, and he murders them. Like, I know he's a hitman and he's like been very violent up to this point, but he's also such a diva. Like, I just think I was just really shocked when he actually murdered people. And this is also like scholastic middle grade. Like, I was shocked enough when Welk died in the first book. This one was actually, again, very shocking for me that 2 men were murdered. Okay, so he murders them. He's thinking about Mora while he does it. And he's actually growing on me. That's what I wrote. I literally said, this man is growing on me here, this diva, because he is. And then the men are talking about how they're looking for a box, and obviously the gray man has no idea what he's looking for, so he's like kind of taking that and running with it. He's like, a box, huh? Maybe I'm looking for a box. And at this point I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Ronan. Ronan's the Grey Warden and he's wrong, but what do I know? While all of that's going down, Gansey and the crew are at a lake where Gansey uses his new sonar equipment to search the bottom of the lake, and Blue is just pissed the entire time because she's like, why do you have the money to buy that? Do you know what you could have done with that money? Which she has a point, because I think they say it was like $6,500, but I think that was actually like very smart on the author's part, besides just the fact that you're getting like the kind of dark academia vibes from them going to a private school and being like rich boys, but also the fact that Gansey now has the money to unlock a bunch of things for them to do. Like, that's kind of cool. But I think that was a good plot device. And then they find something in the water that Blue dives into to go get, and there's such foreshadowing here, because so she brings out a little piece, I think he calls it a boss, but it's part of a shield. It's the metal part that like survives, so it's a circle that has 3 ravens on it, and they're like, oh my god, like Lendauer, like he was the Raven King, this has to do with him. And then they find like a tire from, I can't tell if it's just the hubcap because it was like probably pretty big for Blue to bring up, but from the pig. And of course there's that foreshadowing where he's like, impossible, like the keys are in my pocket right now and I left it safe and sound. Well, we know what's gonna happen because Ronan has a copy of the keys from his dream. That was one of the first things he brought back with him. And I was trying to get antsy for my boy because Ronan, I love him. He is 100% one of those boys that like can't stay out of trouble, which I was just like, I see what's coming, and I'm like, Ronan, why? Mora then goes on a date with the gray man, and Blue, so the thing with the gray man is that Blue's interacting with him, Kala and Persephone are interacting with him, and they aren't like with Welk, when they saw him, they're like, you need to get out, because they like instantly saw like the weirdness of him and like how like creepy, not even just weirdness, but like the evilness behind him, and they're kind of vibing with the gray man right now. And I can't tell if that's because he's like actually probably gonna end up being like a decently good character, or I don't know. Again, diva. And then they steal the phone. She steals his phone while they're making out, Mora does. And then they ask Blue, they're like, can you help us get onto his email? And they, because they know he's looking for something. And then that's when they find all the messages from whoever like hired him that's like looking for the Grey Worm, and they're like, oh, but it's not a thing. It's your friend Ronan. So obviously was confirmed. So I was really hoping, going back to Ronan now and the pig situation, I was really hoping he was going to use the pig in like a life or death situation, and that's why it was at the bottom of the lake. I thought that would have been like, I mean, there's still time, but I was hoping like for whatever reason he would have to drive it into the lake, and then that's why they find the hubcap, because they're talking about how like time is a loop and all that. But no, he decides he's going to use it to street race with Kavinsky. But before that, we got a cute little scene where Noah, I have so many feelings about him. I've mentioned this when I was talking about the first book. I love a character who haunts the narrative. And this poor boy, he is such a cutie, and he's like, so Blue tells him her curse, and he's like, so like obviously I'm dead and I can't be your true love. So like, girl, if you want to try kissing, kiss me. And then they just like kiss over and over again, like horribly, because Blue's 16, 17, like she doesn't know how to kiss. And he says like, it feels like your lips are bracing for me. And so then they like, whatever, they figure it out, and she's just like, Blue's sad. She's like, damn, so this is like what I'm gonna be missing out on, because she ends up enjoying the kiss. And then it's cute, but then at the end, like Noah's like, if I was alive, I would ask you out. And Blue's like, and if you were alive, I'd say yes. And I'm like, Noah! It's just cute, because like, and every time, I love when it's like every time he sees her, he's like, Blue, and he like pats her like spiky hair, and I'm like, oh, poor boy. Oh, and then we get a crazy chapter where I don't know what's going through Ronan's head again. It's like danger, beacon of danger. He decides to take Matthew, his little brother, which little is subjective, he's like 15, back to the barns at nighttime. I think it was nighttime. Back to the barns. And so then Ronan tells him, he's like, okay, I'm gonna do something. I need you to go upstairs and keep a lookout. If you hear anyone, if you see a car, I need you to go to the basement and hide, okay? So Matthew comes back down and he runs into Ronan, and he's like, I think there's someone in here. And my heart literally dropped, because the night terror that attacked Ronan and Yancy, whatever, the first time that they ended up killing, they said it like makes the sound of like tire spokes, like a tire, like it's like like that was so bad, but that's how it's written, like TSK or whatever. That was great. That was a great impression. But so then he's like, and then Ronan heard it, and you're like, I literally closed my book for a second. I was like, and I took a second, because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna play out, because they were in like the living room with his frozen mother, and he's like trying to be like, oh my god, he tells Matthew, he's like, sit next to mom, it's not gonna want you, it's gonna want me. And Matthew's like, oh my god, what's going on? They try to like block whatever door this thing is trying to come into, and then all of a sudden it stops, right? And Ronan's like, did it give up? And then they start hearing human footprints, and they're like, or footsteps, and like, what the heck? So they hide, and the gray man comes in. The gray man is everywhere. So the gray man comes into the living room and he sees their mom and he's like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, who left you here? And then he sees the box that Roman brought. Oh, that was the important part, is that, you know how there was in the box that Ronan had dreamed up, like the puzzle box, there's one language he doesn't recognize, and then when he was thinking about his father's will, he's like, oh, I think it was actually like on the will. And so he lines up the puzzle box. He lines it up already. Hello, my love, can you stop? He lines it up and figures out this is like the language that his father wrote in the last line of his will was the missing language. Sets it on the table as like all this stuff is going down with like the night terror. And then because the gray man's is now thinking he's looking for a box, which is the Grey Warren, he takes the box with him. That entire scene stressed me out. Literally, like, I closed the book. I was like, that's what the last clip, I think that's the last clip where I was like, jaw dropped. That's like where I was at. I was like, I needed a second. And I was reading in the dark too, and I was like, why am I actually like spooked? Oh my god. Oh, and then, okay, so then we have a little interlude. Can you tell I like the Ronin stuff so much more than like the rest of the plot? So Gansey and Adam go to Gansey's mom's party and the lights go out and they hear like a chant or singing that says like the Raven King, make way for the Raven King, and Adam gets drunk and he's like on his like top of the world shit and he's like, I'm the one who woke the Lee line, and he gets drunk and him and Gansey argue. I thought Adam was gonna be my favorite character because I don't know, I just thought he was. I love a man with an accent, and he was very sweet in the first book. Obviously stuff is happening because he's like possessed. He like made the sacrifice to the Lee line and all this other stuff's going on, but he's just been really annoying the crap out of me, and then I just like don't know about him right now. But then they argue and then they go their separate ways and Gansey's like, oh, he hates me, and he like replays like the argument over and over again. And then, see, it's like we're jumping back and forth in this plot so much between the characters, which I love. I love a dual POV. But now we're back to Ronan. Ronan, the idiot, who decides he's gonna take the pig and go race Kavinsky, and he loses and he's really upset about it, and Noah's with him and he's like, how? Like, I've dreamed this, like I know how the pig's supposed to work, like why isn't this working? Boom, what drops on front of him? A night terror. So I don't know, the first night terror that's at the barns, I can't tell, maybe I didn't read close enough because I was like skimming, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I can't tell if the night terror from the barns the second time was the first one they killed that like came back to life, or if it was the one that got away the first time. Remember how Ronan says like, oh, one got away, but then it came and got him again, and so I'm like, was there three? Was this the second one? I don't know how many of those damn night terrors are out there. So he's like fighting with this night terror that's on the top of the pig, that's wrecking the pig, and Kavinsky pulls up with a dream gun and shoots the night terror, not phased at all. And then, first of all, also Kavinsky's becoming a little diva too. I don't like all this substance use that I'm seeing from this man, but then I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my god, Ronan says like he likes to drink and because it makes his dreams more pliable, and we know that Kavinsky is always on something, and we find out the Mitsubishi that he's like having no problems with wrecking, setting fire to, doing all the stuff that everybody assumes his parents are just buying him more Mitsubishis because he always has a new one. He's dreaming them because he is also a Grey Warren and a dreamer, and he's like, okay, idiot, like when your goldfish died as a kid, what did your mom do? She replaced it. And Ronan's like, this is like Gansey's car, like this is the pig, it's not gonna work, like I can't just replace it. And he's like, oh my god, you're so stupid, get in the car, we're gonna go replace it. It's really funny. But from the Grey Warren part, like I don't know how, because he says that he figured it out during Ronan's like suicide attempt, because I guess he saw Ronan where he was, and how like when he woke up all the like scars appeared and that he didn't actually do it to himself. That part was a little unclear to me, but he's known Ronan was a Grey Warren for months, and he himself is one. And at the beginning of the book, when he walks in to Nino's and just drops all of like Ronan's like leather bracelets on the table, I had thought briefly, I was like, did he, like, I had just the smallest inkling, like, that seems like referring to him dreaming them up because they were like a perfect replica or something. I'm like, why would he do that? So I don't understand what that started, because then, you know, then Ronan gives him the glasses he dreamed, and then he makes these fake IDs that he dreamed, and it's like, I don't understand. I kind of don't understand the motivation behind it. I thought, because things have led me to believe that Ronan is gay, and I thought this was gonna be Declan, like, because Declan was like saying like stay away from Kavinsky, like that they've gotten into a fight like twice about it, and there's been small things where it's like, I hear like in the first book when they get in the helicopter, Ronan makes a comment about being like I'm straight, but it's not like in like a like sexuality way, it's just like a him saying like I'm straight, and then Adam's like, that's like the biggest lie you've ever told. And then when Ronan pretends to be sleeping, when Declan comes to look in the car and his leg is on top of Adam's, he says like Declan's expression turned tight, and like when he saw that, and then Kavinsky calls him like the F slur, and I should forget that when I'm calling Kavinsky a diva. I should not forget that he did that. But it was making me think that the reason why Declan wanted him to stay away is because him and Ronan had something. But now I don't know. I'm confused about their relationship. But then the last part that I left off on was when they went back to Gansey, waking up the next morning after the huge fight. And again, I wrote Adam's pissing me off right now, and then Gansey gets a text from Ronan saying like, hey, I wrecked the pig, but don't worry, I'm like fixing it, which is Ronan's whole thing that he doesn't lie. And I'm like, girl, maybe I would have waited until we really fixed the pig before telling him, because he's like going in and out of like sleep and whatever with Kavinsky. But then this is why I stopped reading at this point, because then we get a glimpse of the Gray Man, who, first of all, he's like thinking that he's falling in love with Mora. Crazy. And he's like, I know, like, I feel it. I'm finding the Grey Warren today. So I closed the book. And my only goal for the rest of the day, besides to clean my room, again, have you noticed this angle that doesn't show over there? My only goal of the book is to finish this so I can bring it for my patient tomorrow, but also because I am into this. I'll see you guys again when I finish this book, okay? Bye. Hello everybody, it is the same day since the last time we spoke, and probably 5 hours later, I finished. The entire 5 hours is not spent reading the book, but it is done. I do find though that, like I just said, it didn't take me that whole 5 hours. It did take me a very long time though, just because again, it's so good that I just had to close the book and think about it. And I was actually telling a patient about this series. This is a different patient than the one that's also reading this, who she read Shiverlinger and Forever, which was Maggie Stiefvater's like werewolf book. And she was telling me, she's like, yeah, I did not think that those books in any way, shape, or form were like good, but they were crack. They were crack to me, and I read them all. And while I objectively think that I am enjoying the story, I really do not care about Glendower in the slightest, but I love the relationships the characters have. I love the banter. I love the dialogue. There's divas. There are divas in this one, and let's talk. I actually probably should have waited a little bit before doing my last check-in, because remember how I said we were building up? I felt like in the first book, like that climax and the come down like happened like in the last like 20 pages. This one went for like probably the last 70 was like just like go go go. So I have a lot to talk about. Immediately jumping back into the book from where I last left off with you guys. Remember I was saying that like Gansey and Adam got into a fight and Adam was making me mad. He was gone. He just disappeared. After a while, Gansey was like, I should probably go, you know, like talk to Adam. It's 2 PM. Gone. So they actually like have to go on like a little bit of like a manhunt for him. Like the entire family's looking for him. They call like the police. But like, you know, subtly because Congresswoman. And they find him because he's 15 miles away with transient amnesia. And I can't remember, like somebody finds him on the side of the road, and at first he can't remember Gansey's number, so like multiple people try to help him, but he only gets the help hours later when he remembers Gansey's number, I think it is. But that's crazy. Then we have the whole Ronan and Kavinsky storyline. They go on an absolute bender because I can't remember if I mentioned this, but Adam was saying that Ronan was saying that he drinks before going to bed because sometimes it makes the dreams more malleable, like taffy, I think he said. And we know Kavinsky is always on something, and so Kavinsky's just giving him like sleeping pills after sleeping pills after sleeping pills, trying to get Gansey his pig back. He does end up successfully doing it. And then Kavinsky is really mad at the end when he's like, okay, bye, like I'm gonna go give this back to Gansey, and he's like, I thought it was me and you. Can you hear the sirens? Whatever. He's like, you're either with me or against me. And he's like, did you really think like I was gonna stay with you? Like, you just taught me how to, like, whatever. And then there's a line later that's like very suggestive when he like leaves Ronan like a white Mitsubishi, like one of the hundreds that he's dreamed up. And Gansey's like, he should really come to terms with his sexuality. I think he'd be a lot happier. And I'm like, I think Kavinsky wants to smooch Ronan too. Like, that's what I think's going on. In casual conversation in the next chapter, so moving on, it's a Gray Man chapter. The Gray Man just casually reveals that he's the one that killed Ronan's dad, like in his own thoughts, because he's been looking for the Grey Warren for 5 years at this point. And he, like the line, like he himself knows that he beat the last Grey Warren with a tire iron. And he just thinks about it because he's realizing, he's like, oh my god, it's Ronan. Like, it's the boy. It's not some object. Because apparently he was paid, you find this out later, he was paid to buy, like, I can't remember what his name is, like Green Mantle, I think that's the name of the guy who's employing him. He was paid by him to do it so that the oldest brother, Declan, would find him and get scared and then reveal where the Grey Warren was, which... oh my god, that it gave me literal whiplash at how casually it was thrown into the paragraph. And then he, like, of course changes his mind. He wants to be a good guy, tries to tell Green Mantle that the Grey Warren's not here, but he immediately calls BS on that and is like, I'm gonna call your brother and tell him where you are. Then back to the boys. Ronan gives Gansey the new pig and tells him that he realized what's wrong with Cave's water, why, like, it was disappeared, it was gone when they went to go find it, and why, like, Noah keeps flickering in and out, why there's, like, power outages. It's because him and Kavinsky are taking, like, all of the energy from it when they bring things back from their dreams. And Kavinsky just made 100 white Mitsubishis, so they're like, ooh, we gotta stop him. How are they gonna stop him? I don't know. Then little Adam, I started instead of like just being simply mad at him, because I was pretty mad at him like for most of this, I do really feel for the boy. He confronts Blue about the whole like, why won't you kiss me thing, and she tells him the prophecy and they fight over it. And at this point I was still mad at him because I'm like, boy, you gotta respect it. She doesn't want to kiss you. Like, she doesn't have to tell you why. But then I do kind of see it from his perspective, because I'm gonna get to that, because, you know, his whole thing is like, oh, I had to work for everything. And, you know, I'm like, oh, he's trying to prove himself and everything. And he's like arguing with Gansey. When he's arguing with Gansey, he's like, and I got Blue without you. And I'm like, King, I don't know about that. So then he's like running out of the house and he's like, I gotta go. And he's like, all these like apparitions. I think I forgot to mention this, but all these apparitions are coming in and out. And then the reason why he had that transient amnesia and just started like wandering to like to the Pentagon or something. All this like stuff is happening is because like when he made the sacrifice, he vowed to be Cave's Water's eyes and hands. And it had been trying to tell him, like, we need you to do something. But he hadn't been able to understand. So Persephone steps in and she's like, hey, King, like, I'm gonna help you understand. Eat some pecan pie and come stabilize yourself. So they do some scrying because Adam's all out of whack. And then, you know, he figures out. He's like, oh my God, you guys are trying to tell me something. And then he figures out what it is later. I think he figures it out in that moment and then he goes to do it. But then because Blue is like reeling from the argument, like all this stuff's happening, she calls Gansey and they go for a ride and they talk for hours. And this is why I couldn't get on the Blue and Adam train from the beginning, because like, you just know it's Blue and Gansey. Like, I can't root for the second lead. I just can't do it. I can't do that heartbreak. And they have like a moment where, because this is what I was talking about with Adam and why I kind of felt bad for him, because he's saying, or Gansey says, I never once doubted that I was loved growing up, and I know you didn't either. We were wealthy in love. And then they think of Adam, who's constantly had to prove himself, and like his parents didn't love him, and all this. And I think it's so, there's such a point to that where it's like, they're like, we can never like speak of this because we can't hurt him in this way. And also, you know, the whole Gansey gonna die if they kiss thing, that they like just press their cheeks together and have like a moment, and it was really cute. And then the gray man at this point, this is when he gets the call from Green Mantle. That's when I finally remembered his name. We find out his name's Dean. Love it. Love that name. Then after that, Ronan, Blue, Gansey, Kala, and Mora, they, at this point I also realized it's been a really long time since we'd seen Noah, because I wrote the group sans Adam, and I was like, and Noah, where's that king? Last time we had seen him was when Ronan wrecked the pig. But so those five, they go to the Gray Man's room and they tell Ronan, like, you gotta convince him not to kidnap you. And then the Gray Man is just like, poof, there, he just appears. And I'm, like I said, I really, Dean, I keep calling him the Gray Man in my notes, Mr. Gray. Dean really had grown on me. And I was like, oh, like, what a cute, like, found family, and like, you know, things are gonna work out. Girl, you're on book 2. You have a lot of suffering to go. But I like really thought, you know, recurring character Gray Man. And then he like admits to Ronan that he killed his father. Ronan has like an absolutely like, you know, like justified reaction and tries to beat his ass, right? And then they try to tell Gansey to call him off, and he's like, I think this is a very appropriate response to what just happened. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I guess it can never be. You know, he can't just fit himself into their life. Now that, like, everybody knows he's the one that killed Ronan's dad. And then they end up saying, or they realize that the Gray Man needs to skip town because he's going to take all the other people that are looking for the Grey Warren after, like, take them all out of town, because he called him to he called his employer and he lied to him and said, I actually did find the Grey Warren and it's mine and I'm leaving with it. And the professor believed him and sent his brother after him, which I didn't really get the dynamic between the brother, but basically I think it boils down to when they were kids, like his brother's a sociopath and he like abused the Gray Man growing up, and so he's just been like avoiding him. Like he literally like dropped his last identity to get away from him, and that's like why he does what he does. But he needs to skip town, so Ronan gives him the white Mitsubishi, and then throughout this whole thing, Persephone and Adam are going around and fixing the lead line, because the way that Adam described it, what happened is, so they're sapping all the energy and the lead line's starting to kind of fray. They describe it like a wire that needs electrical tape. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So they go around and they're like trying to repair it all. And Adam instinctively is like, I'm doing this because I know Ronan's gonna need this. Like it's like, and Adam knew like the reason he was doing this was because Ronan needed him or something. Then Kavinsky kidnaps Matthew, poor little angel boy, and he reveals that he killed other people. Like he kind of alluded to it when he was trying to teach Ronan like how to do the whole like dreaming up an entire car thing, where I think it was Popovich, something like that was like his friend, like his like lackey basically, and he mentions, he's like, yeah, he was my greatest forgery or something like that. And then you realize he really did kill that man. When I missed it, he killed him and had to dream up another one to replace him. And then he dreams up a dragon that like saps all the energy from the dream, or Cave's water, and the dream that him and Ronan are in. So Ronan suddenly appears next to Adam, who's now back in Cave's water and is like putting the Lee line back together. And then Adam's like putting together all the rocks. The way that they describe it is they're like, oh my god, it's like Stonehenge. And Persephone is like, yeah, like that's a very cliche way of like describing it, but basically they're like lining up all these rocks to like put the lead line back together. And so they put in like the final rock and boom, Ronan has all the energy he needs. He starts dreaming up a night terror, but then it becomes like a white instead of black one, I don't know, and then he uses that to go start fighting Kavinsky's. It's all a lot. It's all kind of a lot. But that starts fighting the dragon, and because it's like in the annual like 4th of July party with a bunch of fireworks, somehow at first people think it's like a part of a show or something, it seems like, and then people are like, oh wait, like this might actually hurt us, and they start screaming and people start running and stuff. And then Ronan finally finds Matthew in one of the Mitsubishis, like in the trunk, and he like pulls him out, and Kavinsky is like standing on top of it and like just like basically like being like ha ha ha, just reckless. And Ronan's like, get down from there, and Kavinsky's like, no. He says they're all so into Latin, and his whole thing was like saying like dying is a boring side effect, and he says it like one last time in Latin and then gets got. I'm pretty sure he gets got by, I was really reading this fast, you guys. He gets got by King the Dragon, and then because he dies, like the other things go to sleep. Remember, because they're like without a dreamer, they're like a computer waiting for input. Crazy. And then the official last chapter of the book, so that all happens. The official last chapter of the book, the Gray Man is leading the others away from town, and he's just being like really like kind of emo that he like had to leave Mora, he had to leave the life behind that he was starting to really like, because he's like tired of being on the run and all that. And then he pulls into a gas station. This is so funny. He pulls into a gas station, and he like, the guys that are following him, he realized they're just like two like young guys probably just being paid. He's like, hey man, like honestly, like I lied because I needed more money. You guys should probably get out of this business like you know, like, here's my number, let's catch up. And they're basically like, you know what, man, yeah, like, we're just gonna leave. He's like, it's not worth it. And then, because he's like in the middle of like all the cameras or something when he's talking to them, and he drives where his brother parked, kind of behind the gas station, and his brother's like, I guess it's just you and me. And he goes, pew, pew. It's just me. I was like, huh? He just killed him. He did make a comment. He was like, it would have been easier if I had just like gone and found him, shot him twice in his office. Like, that would have taken care of himself. He says that like earlier in the chapter, and then he just does it. So that's the last chapter of the book. And again, I'm struggling to come to terms with this as a scholastic book. Like, I would have picked this up at a book fair. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw this at a book fair when I was growing up. But then there is the epilogue, where Ronan, earlier he has a dream where basically he's really mad because like his dad had given him the barns, but in the will it said like, you can't go back to it, blah, blah, blah. And then the last line basically is like, I forgot the puzzle box. Basically, he turns the last word to like please or something, and then all the trees wake up, and that's how they help him. That was an important plot point because the puzzle box does come back into play. Sorry, I forgot about that. But the last line that was like this, pause, let me go find it. Okay, I can't find it. I'm not wasting more time. It's hot in here. I had to turn my AC off for this. I'm already sticky. But basically the line that's like, this will is relevant until another one is created. You know, he found out was like a loophole, and his dad in like a dream was like, I wrote that there is like a loophole for you. Go do with that what you will. So what he does is he rewrites one in his dream that says that they can go back to the barns whenever they want. They just can't live in it until they're 18. Him and Matthew go pick up their mom, and they bring her to Caves Water, and she wakes back up, which is very cute and sweet, but I can't help but feel like it's a little foreboding. And when they get to Caves Water with her, Noah's there. Noah's back. And then the pool, like the tide pool that they first had noticed was filled with fish. That's how they kind of figured out it was like a magical place, is because the fish were silver when they got there, and Gansey thought about red fish and they all turned red. So that is now gone, and it's a massive cave that they all say feels kind of like dangerous. But when they get home, the gray man is back, and him and Kala are sitting on the front steps, and Kala's like, you knew this was gonna happen, didn't you, to Persephone. And they go inside, and Mora's gone, but there's a note that says, Glendower's underground, so am I. Ah! Oh my god, that was the moment that made me remember Neve. She was a major character in the first book, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot about her. Because remember, they were like, oh, someone's been using this bowl and scrying that's a blue found when she went upstairs into Neve's old room, and she tries to tell her mom, and her mom's like mind your own business. It was probably her, right? And she's gone. And the gray man's probably like, I came back to get my girl, and she's gone. So I'm assuming he's gonna be a big player in the next book. And what do I have here? Thank you, Thrift Books, for sending all of the books at the same time. But I have Lily Blue. And I can't help but remember when they went to the barns for the first time. They were talking, Ronan mentions how there was a vase of blue lilies that he had never, that's like when they're looking around and they're like, oh my gosh, all of these things were dreamed. And it was the blue lilies that never died, even though they were alive. I'm big braining you guys. Let me read the back, okay? There is danger in dreaming, but there is even more danger in waking up. Blue Sergeant has found things. For the first time in her life, she has friends she can trust, a group to which she can belong. The Raven boys have taken her in as one of their own. Your problems have become hers and her problems have become theirs. The trick with found things, though, is how easily they can be lost. Friends can betray, mothers can disappear, visions can mislead, certainties can unravel. I'm so excited to read this. Oh my god. Alright guys, if you have made it this far in the video, you have probably pretty easily been able to tell that the reason why it now says part 1 in the title of this video is because I talk like crazy, and if I put all 4 books in one video, I think this video would have been 4 hours long, 3 to 4 hours long. So I have decided that in this video I just read books 1 and 2, which is of course The Raven Boys and The Dream Thieves, and I am going to cut the video here. And so next week I will post part 2 with me reading books 3 and 4. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you got to the end of this, I hope you stick around for my video next week. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, especially if you enjoy listening to me yap about books and recount every little minor detail that happens and all my opinions about it. I had so much fun making this that I really want to do it again in the future. So hopefully you guys like part 1, and I will see you guys soon for part 2.